Welcome back. We are glad you are still keeping us company. We want to continue with Good Morning Kenya, and we move on to In the Headlines Part 2 and just get to have a look at what the papers have for us this day. Remember, our communication platforms still remain open. We are using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. Our official station handle ever remains to be at KBC Channel 1. Our individual handles are at Victor Oloo, at Regina Manyara, at Jain Wambui. Stephane, utatukumbusha handle yako in a bit. But let me start you off with the Daily Nation. So busy today. So many stories have been featured here. Most of the stories that are on this front page are very political given the events that have happened over the weekend. We start with Ruto, where he said, I will win the race to State House in the first round. And not just winning, but winning with a cool 54% of the entire votes that will have come in then. We'll be giving you details as per how this daily has captured this story. The next story is in regards to what happened in Western, when it's currently where the former Premier Raila Odinga was touring, and they said, give us the DP slot in Western, and also allocate 5 cabinet slots from the Western bloc in order to just pay us back for the support that we have shown you over the years. More details coming up in a bit. And on the other hand, we also have Okam, who say that we are not in any talks with DP. And Kalonzo Musyoka, Wiper Party leader, went on to also dismiss this hearsay that has been going around the rumor mill, saying that he's being courted by this political leader or this other party, or, reverting back to ODM, saying that, it is quite laughable because none of that is a reflection of the true state of affairs. Coming to the main read, Maraga, top lawyer in ugly court battle. Now, the case will come up for mention before Judge Said Juma Chitembe on the 8th of December. And in his response to this, the defamation suit that was filed by retired Chief Justice David Maraga over a 220 million bribe that was allegedly given to a Supreme Court whose name is yet to be mentioned, by city lawyer Ahmed Nasir, who claims that the retired CJ has a history of soliciting favors, and they should also go further and question Mr. Maraga's lifestyle and source of wealth over the years that he has been practicing. And he goes on to give the genesis of how, he came to know the former CJ, and just trying to paint a picture of what he has been saying in regards to this bribe case involving 220 million Kenya shillings. And also this story concerning what the CS of Health had to say: no beer, no travel without the COVID-19 vaccination certificate, and anyone who will not have been vaccinated against the coronavirus might be denied services as of the 21st of December. And these are government services, to be specific. What do the people have to say about this? I'll be telling you what this paper has for us. And finally, junior high rollout gets 4 billion boost. And this is in line with the president's directive to the Ministry of to the National Treasury rather, on Madaraka Day, or on Mashujaa Day rather, when he directed Treasury to allocate 8 billion Kenya shillings to go towards the construction of new classrooms, at least 10,000 classrooms, in order to accommodate junior high, given we'll be having 2 rollouts. We'll be having class 7s who will be joining secondary schools by then, and also the current grade 5s will be joining junior high then. 2 sets of transitioning. So in order to accommodate all these numbers, 10,000 classrooms ought to have been constructed by then. But as it stands, 4 billion has been released to the Ministry of Education. We'll be giving you more details in regards to these stories in a bit. Victor?
All right, and on the front page of this Star newspaper here. All right, there you have it. On the front page of the Star newspaper, Kalonzo calls key party meeting to decide 2022 bid. Key invitees are President Uhuru Kenyatta and former NASA allies. Wiper leader says that he will not play second fiddle to anyone. We are waiting to see how that will play out, giving you details shortly. And again, Kenyans to show proof of vaccination for services. Again, that has been touched since yesterday, and just some tidbits there. Pilots, cabin crew, matatu and border borders to be inoculated as well. And you have it there. So starting December 21st, you will not get all the government-owned services if you are not fully vaccinated. Ruto begins 5-day tour of Rift Valley backyard. On Monday, the DP is expected in Narok County for a series of functions, and on Tuesday, he will be in Belgut, Kericho County, where he will traverse the constituency, conducting youth and women's empowerment programs. On Wednesday, he will start his day in Nandi County and later attend an interdenominational church function in his home county of Uasin Gishu. And on Thursday, the DP will pitch tent in Nakuru County, and on Friday take his campaigns to Nyandarua. He will be back to Kwale on Saturday. That is as per his itinerary. On that story about Juma locking up for a long time, says terrorist Juma's father. Mother helped him to get security guard job in South Sea. He embraced radical Islam. Patrick Odhiambo, the father of convicted terrorist Joseph Juma, wants the government to give his son a merciless sentence for attempting to escape from community maximum prison. He believes that for his terror links and his escape from jail, 30-year-old Juma, aka Yusuf, should be behind bars for a long time. Yeah, that is from a father. And I quote, "And when he's finally freed, he will be shown my gravesite. That is, if he doesn't return in a coffin himself." Because of what he did, the government should add more years on top of the ones he was serving. He will find me long dead and buried. He will only be shown my grave. Now, let me just put it this way. The good book says that obey your parents, and your days will be on your father, all right? So when you hear your father telling the government muongeza zingine on top of what already he was serving, just know that you are completely out of the good books with your father, and that is not so good. We all know parents protect their kids, their children, by all means, but imefika a point where a parent says, if he doesn't come back in a coffin, he will come and find my grave. So either way.
That may be very heavy, especially coming from a parent, but also to just chime in is that you'll find that there are other parents who, I don't know, something goes wrong at some point, and they're the ones who make their children suffer. I want to draw your attention to a story that was highlighted in the media, and it went actually to court in a murder investigation, where the culprit ended up being the father who had organized the murder of his son and the wife and the children. You remember that case? Yeah, and it turned out that it was the father all along who had, done that. So, well, we talk about what parents should inherently do, and that is protect your offspring because you brought them to this earth. There are some who have fallen by the wayside, and they're the ones who are leading, in hurting their children. There's a report also here that has been captured in this particular daily, being the Standard, that indicates that the situations at home, a majority of them have been blamed for the high rates of depression. Yeah. And depression, not just onto grown-ups, but also children. Jain, you can pick it up. What do you think about this issue of, the role of parents, especially when it comes, to depression among especially the children, so to speak, that you grow up with childhood trauma that later affects your life as an adult?
I think from also what I have seen, the younger generation that just follows us, after the millennials, we have the Gen Z, that they're the ones that have come out to be very expressive, and sadly, also the biggest lot that have been affected with depression, because their way of living and understanding and the times that they're currently in are, in all circumstances, incomparable to what we have experienced, to what our parents have experienced, and we actually termed the millennials are the ones in between the baby boomers and the Gen Z. So at least for us, the millennials, we're able to benefit from both sides of the divide, from what our parents went through, their journeys, akitupigia story za kutembea bila viatu, I did what I did to get to where you are today, and Gen Z who, we are who we are in this time that we are in, regardless of what the previous generation went through. So we, being in the middle, have been able to see at least the good and bad of both sides of the divide. But also, Gen Z is a rather different lot. They are, outspoken and defiant, quote unquote, and that in one way or the other has brought a lot of friction when it comes to how some of them relate with their parents, saying, my parents are wananifungia, hawanipei hii, they're not giving this to me, and consequently leading them into depression. Okay? And on the other hand, we have the parents who are saying, I am doing all this for them, for their good, and they don't seem to see that until much later when they will come to see that. So I think it's a two-way street, and arguably so. There's really nothing much we can do because our parents did the best that they could with what they have or what they had. Millennials or the Gen Z are doing the best that they can with what they have, and finding a middle ground seems to be the hardest part of this whole equation. And consequently, the many cases of depression that we are seeing, and especially among the youth, the younger population, so many cases of depression are being reported today. You hardly go through a lot of 10 youths today, you will not fail to find at least one who is either depressed or is going through getting treatment for depression, either through therapy or medication, antidepressants, just something that is linked to depression. So in one way or the other, you can't separate the two. We just have to find a way of working together. But sadly, it usually comes after such a long time of struggles, of friction, of misunderstanding each other, before you get to that sweet space where as a child you understand your parent, and as a parent you understand your child better.
Yeah.
Tricky grounds, tricky grounds.
The Generation Z, times have changed, and you see parents are still trying to raise their kids from the way they were raised during their times, and this is where the conflict begins, because you see Generation Z wants some sort of freedom. Because things have become hard during this time, and they want just to be out there, to be themselves, but parents have come up with the strict rules and everything. So I think it will just be good for parents to have a good relationship, a very tight relationship with their children. This would help so that even when your child is depressed or going through something, it's easy for you to identify and do something about it, and don't raise your kid based on a certain a certain mark sheet. Just find your own way, your own path with your child, and I think things will be better when we approach things differently from how they were in the past. With the new, of course, with the new era comes new things. So these are my 2 cents.
All right. So all that you've said is related to what Juma's father said about his son. It's quite unlikely to hear a father or a parent say, I'm done with you. My son, my daughter, nimemaliza na wewe. So let it not get to that point. Okay, very quickly, to some politics. Kalonzo convenes NDC for State House battle. Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka has convened the party's supreme decision-making arm, the National Delegates Convention, on Thursday to receive blessings to run for presidency. It is said that Kalonzo, who is planning his second term at the presidency since 2017 debut, plans to assemble more than 6,000 party delegates from across the country at the expansive Kasarani Gymnasium. in a show of might. The August 9th general election is just but around the corner. And finally, Oka denies its wooed by DP Ruto and Raila. Principals say that they are united and ready to support one of them as flag bearer. So the alliance termed as far-fetched and imaginations. Media reports that it was keen to work with either ODM leader Raila Odinga or Deputy President William Ruto. There are reports that Raila and Ruto are keen to woo the four principals of Oka to form a formidable team for their election. But now Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka said that they have not been approached by any leaders as alleged, noting that they would go all the way to the ballot. And on the sports, something that we usually don't do here, Hamilton wins. For those people who are Formula One lovers, Hamilton wins in Qatar to close on Verstappen. That is 7 times world champion Lewis Hamilton won the inaugural Qatar Grand Prix for Mercedes on Sunday to cut Max Verstappen's overall Formula One lead to 8 points with 2 races remaining. I know there's so many fans of Formula One, and there you have it, Hamilton going head-to-head with Vas, and of course Tundo, Savo's 4th win of the season in KCB Thika Rally Thriller. That happened navigated by long-standing co-driver Jim Jesop in a Mitsubishi Evo 10. Tundo clocked 1 hour, 47 seconds, 0.9 hours to beat series champion Baldev Chaga by 0.294 seconds. Tundo was the victor on the ARC Equity Rally in his mini motorsport VW4 Polo R5, won Machakos Rally, and Nanyuki in his R4 Evolution Machine. Is it machine? Yeah, from where we come from, it's called a machine, but when you say machine, apuna shrub, you say machine, that's the correct one. When you say machine, you're shrubbing.
Regina. Basically, that is me trying to speak Turkana there. Tubong Lore. So the 6th Turkana Tourism Cultural Festival is going to be happening next month between the 6th, actually the 9th to the 11th of December. And we know, in as much as we refer to it as a Turkana festival, it is held within Marsabit County, which happens to be the largest county in the country. And it's the origin of mankind, the cradle of mankind, so to speak. So if you have no plan, now that we know that if you are not vaccinated, you will not be using the SGR. You can start driving to the opposite direction, you know?
Accessible. The roads are nowadays very good. You can drive from Nairobi to
Good,
Turkana.
and actually the north is very beautiful.
Very beautiful.
It's very scenic.
You know, Ray, that word you said, I thought that was a French word.
Oh, Tubong Lore.
Tubong Lore.
Tubong. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correct. Coming, thinking, remembering where I come from. What to Avant?
Sikupenda kwako.
Sisi tulienda Avant. Leave us alone. And we actually got insulted when a politician last week insulted our intellects, my friend. We will not take that kindly, my friend. In our home area. In how hapo nyumbani, unajua, you'd rather have someone, insult you in their land or in no man's land, but come and insult you in your home area, man.
The audacity.
Iyo nguvu. Alitwa wapi? Anyway, that was just on a very light note. So just in case you're thinking, you know, Mombasa is a plan, what we know is that so far the SGR, if you like, the Madaraka Express has been booked, fully booked, so to speak, for the December holidays. And now that directive there to have persons who traveling on board the SGR fully vaccinated. Well, the government doesn't say that it is a must that you get vaccinated for you to use these services. I think more or less, if you're not fully vaccinated, well, forget government services next year. And if you keenly listened to the Health Cabinet Secretary's speech yesterday, he says that he knows that people are going to go to court over this directive. And very well so, because there's so many questions that are going through my mind at this point. At what point does government deny its citizenry its services, yet the citizenry are the ones that fund government services, so to speak, through taxes that they pay? Because you getting your national ID is your civil right. I mean, the services that are your right, you and I. So this is walking a very gray area, so to speak. So we're waiting to see if indeed there are people who are going to go to the courts over that directive that has been made. There have been questions since this particular speech was made public, and stories followed through, because I want to read what was been quoted in some of the Twitter handles that we have. Is that is this COVID jab a cure? So there's that tweet there. So someone just asking, so when now it has come to this, but is it a cure? Remember, government says that just needs to get, you know, we want like herd immunity, so to speak. However, not herd immunity per se, because you may be fully vaccinated and still contract COVID-19. What they want is to reduce, you know, the deaths, as well as also avoiding a shutdown of the economy. Talking about what rather the ripples of COVID-19 in the Netherlands, the Dutch government is engaged in running battles with the citizenry there, protesting a full lockdown owing to the increase of cases, COVID-19 cases. Now they're on full lockdown. Over 500 protesters there have been were engaged in demonstrations on the streets there. So there's so much that is happening as far as COVID-19 is concerned. Front page of the Standard, matters COVID as well as matters of politics. There's been a question, Victor, and I'm sure you're going to be tackling this as we focus on iron politics. What pact did Uhuru and Raila make? What pact? What were the details? What were the details of the handshake, so to speak? And according to National Assembly Speaker, that is Justin Muturi, and he has been quoted on the front page of the Standard this morning. He says Raila's reluctance to declare his planned stab at the presidency is perhaps because of his retirement deal with Uhuru. He claims that the head of state, or rather he reveals, that is Justin Muturi, that the handshake and Raila's retirement from politics. So if you look at what the former PM has been doing across the country, he's talking about what he would do if he was declared president. And we are yet to have ODM, his party, declare him as the flag bearer. We have not had that yet. So the matrix of the political scene, I think Victor is going to be engaging some political analysts on the same, and also now bringing about the conversation around Oka that says we are going to be together, united towards the very end. In quick summary, that's what we have on the front page of the Standard this morning.
So let's take a look at the People's Daily, which is Kenya's #1 free newspaper. So making the splash on the front page is the no vaccine, no service CS warns. More on this story is that CS stated that all motorable operators, that is drivers, conductors, border riders, pilots, air hostesses, and all other working in the sector should be fully vaccinated and carry proof of vaccination. Also, the counties with low vaccination uptake are such as Siaya, Meru, Bungoma, Busia, Migori, Kakamega, and Homa Bay, despite high population density having recorded below 5% vaccination rate. The government is also expecting up to 12 million more vaccines doses in the next few days. So the minister had directed that vaccination for 15-year-olds with Pfizer will start tomorrow. So the estimated population in this group is 5.7 million. So everyone above 15 years is expected to be vaccinated. So, and he goes ahead to say we have so far received 10.7 million doses and administered nearly 6.4 million doses. quoting, "I am happy to report that among our priority groups, 88% of our health workers and 79% of our teachers are now fully vaccinated." Okay, that's about it. On other story, still on the page 4, youth are urged to apply for Kazi Mtaani. Kiambu County Commissioner Wilson Wanyaga has urged the youth to apply for recruitment in the 3rd phase of the Kazi Mtaani program. He explained that the program is seeking to hire both skilled and unskilled workers, and that he's still urging youth to apply for the jobs, assuring them that in this online application process, both male and female genders will be considered fairly, including those people living with disabilities. So for all youths out there, go ahead and apply for this. Another story still on page 4 is that IBC 2022 plans in limbo as tribunal revokes ballot tender. So the IBC is in a crisis as it prepares for the 2022 elections after the tribunal nullified the award of 2.8 billion ballot paper contract to a Greek firm. This is the Public Procurement Administration Review Board set aside the electorate body recommendation to award the tender to the firm Inform Licois SA. The firm was to supply ballot papers and election result forms, but now the board has said due diligence was not done in the tendering process. Also making the front page is a sad story about 2 deaths that occurred at a Nairobi hotel, and police are investigating the mysterious deaths of a British Broadcasting Corporation journalist and a Kenyan man at Nairobi hotel on Friday morning. The body of the journalist, identified as Catherine Michelle Rowena, was found in her city hotel room, with preliminary investigations showing that she was stabbed before being strangled to death. Police said initial investigations pointed to a murder-suicide case. Adding that the man whose body was found in the same Ibis-styled hotel in Westlands died from a fall. So detectives are conducting a thorough investigations on this matter. A lot of the stories have already been discussed from the other dailies. The other one is on sports that Ole Gunnar has been sacked, and because of the dramatic 4-1 embarrassment at the hands of struggling Watford was the final straw for the patient United board. So those are some of the stories making news on the People's Daily.
All right, thank you so much. We just have to take a break at this particular point. We have got so much more coming up in the next hour, including Eye on Politics. Stay with us.